Welcome back everyone, Oz here. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And today, once again, we'll be taking a look at r/entitled parents. Entitled mother wants me to hand my gun to entitled kid. Excuse me, what? So, a bit of backstory. I work for an event firm where we mostly do medieval fantasy type events. Monsters, elven princesses, heroic knights, and shining armor, etc. But on every so occasion, we get hired for modern stuff. Usually either scientists or military personnel. Cast lists. Me is me, EK is entitled kid, EM is entitled mom, SC is scientist. We gotten hired for a city fair kind of thing, in a city that has a lot of focus on UN climate goals. So the company that I work for hired to bring 4 people, 2 scientists and 2 environmental policemen. Myself being a police, so I bring my rifle and pistol. Of course, with all the necessary paperwork to the event. So I show up there, meet with my colleagues, and we dress up. Full uniform, vest, pistol by my hip, and rifle over my chest. I go with one of the scientists and the other officer goes with the other. Our job is pretty easy. Walk around and talk to people about the environment and what sort of things people can do better. And of course, a lot of people ask me about my guns. And as this is all a big show we put on, I of course tell them my guns are real and loaded. Which they aren't. Most people seem to believe me and believe that I was in fact a police officer from the UN Environmental Commission. And the day is going pretty well, until entitled kid, about 12 years old, shows up. Entitled kid, holy crap, those guns are cool! I have a lot of Gucci gear that I slap on my rifles for these kinds of things. Lights, lasers, grips, flashlights, etc. Agreed. We start the usual, why are you having guns? Have you ever shot someone? What does this thing do? Etc. type of conversation. Can I hold your gun? No, these are dangerous tools and should only be handled by those who know how. But I know how to use a gun. I've played thousands of hours of Battlefield. Playing a video game ain't the same as using a gun in real life. Entitled kid gets mad and runs off. Scientists asked me what that was about, so I gave him the brief, when suddenly entitled mother comes walking. I didn't notice entitled kid to begin with, but I quickly saw him and realized what was going to happen. Why won't you let my son hold your guns? Because ma'am, as I told your son, guns aren't toys, and they should only be handled by... Stop talking like I'm a child. I'm older than you, lad, and I'm telling you, my son knows how to use a gun. He plays all those shooter games. Ma'am, I'd prefer if you didn't call me lad, and yes, it's quite likely that you're older than me, but that doesn't change the fact that I know how dangerous guns can be. And your son is just simply not trained in how to use one. The conversation continued for a while, and I must admit, I got pretty angry in the end. And suddenly, I feel a harsh tug on my pistol holster. I turn around, and lo and behold, entitled kid was trying to snatch my pistol from the holster. Fortunately, he doesn't know how pistol holsters work, so he didn't know where to find the button that allows you to actually draw the pistol. So, I grab his hand and yank it away from my gun. Entitled mother begins screaming, but quite frankly, I paid her little mind as I told entitled kid to never touch a firearm without permission. He of course begins crying and entitled mother gets all up in my face and starts screaming at me. At this point, I get very angry and begin screaming back at her. I'm 193 centimeters tall and weigh about 110 kilograms, and I ain't sure whether my size scared her or she just never had anybody yell at her. Either way, she got quiet. As I yelled about how her kid could have gotten himself or someone else killed by doing what he did, as well as explaining how COD and Battlefield don't teach anything about guns, and several curse words sprinkled in there. At this point, the on-site security comes running over and asks what's going on, so I turn around and tell them about how entitled kid had tried to take my gun. Entitled mother screams about how I assaulted her, as well as entitled kid. Fortunately, as she says this, about 10 people around us more or less go "Nyeh-uh" in unison. Several of the people around us explained to the security guard what had happened, so entitled mother and entitled kid got escorted away. Then, out of the blue, comes the other scientists and the police officer. Only having heard me screaming my lungs out, the other scientist, who is also my boss, was obviously quite worried, but security was still there to explain what had happened. Ended up with my boss not wanting real firearms for these events anymore. Even if unloaded, they're as safe as any prop gun we could use. But if it's a prop gun or airsoft, it's easily replaceable with insurance. which a real firearm very certainly is not. I think the scariest part of this is how little information the entitled mother actually knows about firearms. And if she actually knew anything about them, she would not let her kid touch it, because they are not toys. No, your hellspawn cannot feed my ferret that. I want to preface this by saying I know emotional support animals do not have the same rights as service dogs, and no, I don't take advantage of having one. I have cleared taking my big boy with me several places that I frequent, and he has permission to be there, such as my therapist's office and the local mall. I don't just take him places he should not be. I honestly really need my boy with me for places crowded like the mall or overly emotional like my therapist's, as I have severe anxiety and PTSD. Anyway, this particular time I needed the Apple Store at the mall. I was getting my battery placed in my phone. Cast of characters are as thus: Big Boy, BB, my good ferret boy. EM is entitled mom, LS is little shite or entitled kid, and of course, me. So I dropped my phone off at Apple and it was going to take some time, so I sit outside of the store on some couches. BB is in his bag carrier that looks like a purse and has mesh sides for him to look out. He was fast asleep, just keeping chill with my calm presence. After a bit he woke up and peeked out at me, curiously, as he does because he's a ferret. Everything is interesting and has potential to be stolen and stashed. I saw no harm in taking him out as he is well trained, never bites, and he was in his harness on a lead and I was going to be holding him in my lap anyway. So I take him out and settle him on my lap for some snuggles, which are his favorite. A mother and her young son holding a mall food court pretzel, this is important later. Entitled mother and entitled kid walk over curiously as ferrets are not a common pet where I live. What's that? Oh, this is BB, my ferret. Oh, is it safe for us to pet him? Kudos on you, you actually asked before reaching a hand out to pet someone else's animal. Let's reward this behavior. I don't see why not, he's super friendly and he loves people. Let me show you. I demonstrate how to gently stroke his long soft back, as even though he never bites, I thought maybe keeping strangers away from the sharp teethy bit of my ferret would still be prudent. Entitled Kid is really excited because he has never seen a ferret before and he strokes BB's back, and I am pleasantly surprised how gentle he is. Entitled Mother gives me a few curious pats but then turns to me and starts chatting to me about what having a ferret is like. It's awesome. Is it a good pet for her precious entitled kid? No, not really a great pet for kids if you don't want to take on most of the responsibility yourself. They are a lot of work. Do they really smell? Not really if you have them on the right diet and clean their cages regularly. Again, they are a lot of work and can be expensive. I still have BB on my lap and Entitled Kid is petting him and I'm watching out of the corner of my eye even as my head is torn to talk with Entitled Mother. Entitled Kid is holding that mall food court pretzel in his hand that isn't petting BB, and I catch the movement of him tearing a little piece off and holding out to BB. I react fast and pull BB away from LS. Please don't try to feed him that. He can't eat anything that is not meat or it will make him sick. Please don't try to feed him again or you won't be able to pet him anymore. Entitled Mother acts as if I just spat fire at her entitled kid. Why can't he feed him a little bit of his pretzel? It will hardly harm it and it will make Entitled Kid so happy to be able to feed the ferret. He has never gotten to feed one before. There is no need to be so mean about it. Actually, it will harm him. Ferrets are obligate carnivores, meaning they cannot eat carbs, fruits, or vegetables or anything like that. They cannot digest them and can only have raw meat, raw egg, and other specialty formulated kibble. You can cause great gastric distress and the runs by feeding him even a little of that pretzel to him, because he cannot digest it. Mommy, I want to share my pretzel with the ferret, he whined. Seriously, why do people want kids? Their voices are like nails on a chalkboard sometimes. It's okay, baby, you can feed a little piece to the ferret. A little piece won't do any harm. Go on, Entitled Kid, share your pretzel with the ferret and show how nice and good you are at sharing. Entitled Kid bounces excitedly and holds the bit of pretzel out to BB again. Thankfully, ferrets imprint on their food at around 6 months, so BB had no idea he was supposed to eat the offering because it didn't register as food to him. But Entitled Kid kept shoving it in his face, trying to get him to take it. I quickly, but gently, put BB back into his carrier, settle him with his toy, and close it so he is safe, and stand up to leave. No, he can't share his pretzel with BB. I am not going to put him through an awful stomachache and have Lord knows how much in vet bills because your trophy wants to share. You want to interact with someone else's pet, you respect their boundaries. I then walked back into the Apple store. I could hear her yell at me to come back, and I could hear entitled kid crying on the top of his lungs. But I was beyond caring about being nice. You don't put my BB in danger because your crotch goblin wants to feed him something that will hurt him. His want does not trump my BB's needs. My pet, my baby, is not communal property. That's a lesson the two of them are better off learning sooner rather than later. And now for a nice picture of the ferret. There you go, look at him down there, his little bear. Cute little guy. Entitled mother thinks I should sell her my service dog for not letting her daughter distract her. Okay, a little bit of backstory. I am almost completely deaf, but I have a pair of hearing aids so I can basically hear quiet whispers. I also have a service dog called Piper. She's a big black lab that I was matched with because I'm very active. Anyway, rules are, when a service dog is wearing their vest, you cannot distract them with petting and such. Kay is her kid. The kid is young and just curious, so I wouldn't call her entitled. Me, I'm a 16-year-old dude. So I was in the park just after my morning run, and I was walking with Piper home. It was a Saturday morning, so I was in no rush to be anywhere. I'm holding onto Piper's harness when she stops and faces towards something. This means that there's someone or something that needs my attention when I look around. A woman and her kid are walking up to me, and the woman doesn't look very happy. The entitled mother looks at me and Piper and kind of thrusts her kid towards me. Now, this girl looks really shy and comes up to me with a scared expression on her face, which is actually quite cute. I'm a pretty good lip reader, so I can understand most people, but this girl was about 4 and I presume she had a lisp, which made me a little slow to decipher her words. "Excuse me, can I pet the doggy?" Now, I'm a sucker for a cute face, and although you aren't supposed to let people distract a service dog, I wasn't in a rush, and the pout the girl gave me when it took me a while to respond was heartbreaking. I'm basically melted butter at this point. Okay, but just for a little bit, she's working and we can't distract her. I smiled at her as her face lit up, as she reached over to rub Piper's head. She started being all cute by talking to Piper. I could make out little things like, "You're a nice doggy, I like you," and "Your coat is really pretty." She was talking about Piper's service vest. So we sat around in the grass for a little while as the girl asked me things about my dog, until, "Can we play fetch?" "Sorry, sweetheart, but Piper has to stay with me so she can look after me." The girl then asked why, and I explained that my ears didn't work and she accepted that. At this point, I decided I should probably head home as I'd been out for a while. As I turned to leave, the entitled mother started tapping my shoulder. "Can I help you?" "You need to let my daughter play with your dog." I tried to explain to the mother that I am deaf and that Piper is my service dog, so I can't let her do that. At this point, entitled mother gets mad. "Fine, I'll give you $50 for him. Get a new dog. You can understand me just fine, so you're obviously not deaf. Just a Oof. Fuck. I was shocked. This woman wanted to take Piper. What? "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I need Piper." "I'll give you $100 for her." That's pretty much what it costs to look after her for a month, so no thank you. At this point, I just turn and leave, but the entitled mother follows and grabs Piper's harness. I wasn't holding onto it at the time. Piper is very protective and is rather confused, so she starts growling at the woman. "That's okay. Once he's neutered, that aggression will fade." What the F, lady? There's a 4-year-old? Come on, I'm not actually gonna swear, dude. Give me my dog back. She's not even a boy and has already had a hysterectomy. At this point, a man walks past his own dog. P, friendly passerby. "Is everything okay?" "No, this brat is trying to steal my daughter's service dog." At this point, I'm facing away from P. He must ask for me because eventually he comes around to my side and his eyes land on my hearing aids. Also, Kid is trying to get her mom to give Piper back. Given your daughter is trying to return the dog and this man is obviously deaf, I think you better return the dog. "Fine, but get ready to hear from my lawyers." Seriously, here? The entitled mother storms off, leaving Piper at my feet, so we all go our separate ways after I thank the man for his help. Sorry this was kind of long, but people like that really get on my nerves. What's up with this recent trend of people not knowing what a service dog is, or the fact that usually people who have service dogs actually need them? Thank you for making it this far. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And as an announcement, I've got a couple things planned this week that I'm really excited for, so stay tuned. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.